Almost 2 days have passed since the latest nerfs, so now we actually have some good stats from HS Replay Premium, and we can see how the meta is shaping up. Obviously it's a bit too early to make any grand assumptions, but we can definitely see what are the better working archetypes right now, so we can better understand what we should be playing as well as what we're up against. If you're serious about Hearthstone, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget you can hire me for some Hearthstone coaching. Now let's check out the decks.
You are not prepared!
The first deck is gonna be one of the nerfed ones, Arcane Hunter. And honestly, the nerf to Costume Singer didn't really do too much. It's still an absolute menace of a card, and it could be even a 0-1 for all we care, as long as it's sucking those secrets out of your deck. Obviously it was a lot better having 2 attack on it, because in the end of the day this deck does play out a bit like an aggro phase deck, but it's definitely not that bad that this went down to a 1-1 even though it's not still represented on the library here. Right now this is one of the best performing Arcane Hunters, and it's running all of the classics for the archetype. And we're having a cat trick as the second secret in the bunch, and we have a couple of hidden meanings as per usual. Double Awakened Tremors help you with a lot of extra early game, you have the good arcane spell package which you could buff up both with your Calderon as well as with your Silvermoon Fast Rider. The Eversong Portal or Linksys can be absolutely amazing, and you can literally have up to 3 out of this as soon as turn 4. Star Power is pretty good in this one, especially if you buff it up with extra spell power, because that's literally 6 extra damage, and it basically is a full clear as long as the RNG is not super against you. The Titan is super good in this one as well, and the Charged Strongbow is also a lot of damage, usually around 4 mana, because you also have the Titan Force Traps, which can help you outsmart your opponent. Match-wise, here's what the stats show, and as you can see, you literally don't have any bad ones, and this is since the nerf. And ever since the new expansion came out, this is the bigger stats, and you can see that Totem Shaman and Hound Hunter might be a little bit of a trouble. Tread Druid can also be a problem if they actually curve out fast enough and you don't kill them before they play out the big taunts, but everything else looks very green. As for the mulligan, here's how it looks like going first, and obviously the Costume Singer is amazing, Awakened Tremors, Calderon. Silvermoon Fast Rider apparently is also a keep, even though going first you're not gonna have that many arcane spells, so be careful keeping it too much. I guess if you already have this and Eversong Portal it makes a lot more sense, or maybe, I don't know, a Ricochet shot, but no, not really. I think the only reason you would be keeping this would be if you already have the Linksys as well, so don't overkeep it. Agromar can be good if you already have a good curve going, Trinket Tracker is also pretty good, Titan Force Traps, and the rest you probably gotta have a good reason to actually hold on to them. If you already don't have the Costume Singer, you might even consider keeping a hidden meaning, I'd say. And here's what it looks like going second. Again, Calderon, Eversong Portal, and the Titans sound great. Costume Singer is a bit less of a keep, but it still draws you out a secret, so I wouldn't really scoff at it. Awakened Tremors is still a good amount of tempo early on. I wouldn't really keep Conjured Arrow, I think it's a bit too high on this keep list. Silvermoon, again, I would maybe keep it if I already have the Linksys, but when going second, even comboing it with a Ricochet shot might help you win the board back. Titan Force Trap's still pretty good, and I think that's about it. I would still actually hold on to the Trinket Tracker, even though it's not that big amount of tempo, but it still fends out the deck, and it's a body on the board. For other good Hunter decks, right now Hound Hunter is still actually amazing, and I could have just as easily included this one as well. And from Diamond to Legend we can also see plenty of more Hound Hunters doing quite well with big sample sizes. But yeah, basically it just got slightly toned down in the win rate. It used to be about 62, now it's about 59, which is a nice little balance bump, but it's still a bit too high, and I do believe it might actually return to 60 plus soon, but for now this is what the stats are. On the number 2 spot we also have Pure Paladin with the Dude package, which didn't really get touched by the nerfs, so now it feels even better. You already probably seen this list quite a lot, so there's really not that much new into it. We have a couple of Jukebox Totems in here, which is both a mech and a totem, so your Purator can draw out extra cards like that. But you also have Leviathan in terms of mechs, so if you really want this to get pulled, this might muddy up your results. We also have the Titan in here, which is definitely a cool inclusion because it's such a good standalone card, but if you don't have it, I think you can still play the deck without it and still have decent results. Another card you could include instead of the Jukebox Totem would be the 4-Count Loss, let's say, because Jukebox, it's a cool card. I mean, it's a 2-mana 1/5 basically that the opponent needs to remove, and that helps you infuse your Buffet Biggin, and it also gives you extra bodies for your Crusader Aura and extra silver hands for your Warhorse as well. We also have Muster for Battle, which floods the board nice and good. Anachronos is also pretty good in this one, and I definitely prefer it over the new Spectral Dragon, so keep that in mind. As for the matchups, here's what it looks like since the patch came out, and only Curse Warlock is somewhat of a bad matchup, and I guess you gotta really try hard to play around Defile there, even though it's pretty hard with your Silver Hands being a 1 health minion. And ever since Titans came out, the stats are pretty similar. Rainbow Mage is a bit on the 50-50, but nothing too bad. For the mulligan going first, here's what it looks like. Muster for Battle is actually hella high, but it's obviously a pretty cool card. Your good 1-drops like Sanguine Soldier, as well as Sinful Sous Chef can be pretty good. Depending on the matchup, even Righteous Protector might make sense. Buffet Biggin is pretty nice, but try to be curving into it, don't just blindly keep it. Same goes for Juke's Block Totem. It's a cool card, but if I don't have a 1-drop, I might think twice before keeping it. If you already have a good 1-drop, Hand of Adal also becomes pretty good. And if you already have a good curve going, Crusader Aura as well. I'd definitely be keeping Boogie down too, and depending on the matchup, if you're against, let's say, a Mech Rogue, I would consider the Class Action Lawyer. And going second, the stats are pretty similar, but here Class Action Lawyer is even better if you ask me. Warhorse Trainer apparently becomes a bit more keepable, especially if you have Muster for Battle and do this on turn 2, followed up by Warhorse on turn 3, that can be hella good. And also Blood Matriarch might also make the cut. Pure Raider also might be decent here. For other good Paladin decks, we have several different variations of Pure Pally, but there's also this new Just Paladin, which is basically aggro Paladin with the Crusader Aura, which is running quite a few neutrals like the Hawkstrider Rancher, like the Tour Guide, Astalor and whatnot, and it does look kinda okay, but honestly, I would not really trade off Class Action Lawyer and your Countess for a few rando neutrals, cause I don't know, it's just such a good extra game plan. Even though, as you see, the stats are actually pretty good for it, but it's a bit too much of a linear deck for me, so I don't know. There's also the variant with the weapons still doing kinda fine, and it's a lot better against control matchups, but not as good against the others. Mech Paladin is also out there still, but obviously these are the better ones. And still, Urban Paladin is not above 50, so stay away. On the number 3 spot, we also have Mech Rogue, which is still an amazingly good deck, and this is the variant with the Scourge Illusionist, and we're still not running the Lab Constructor, which is sitting at 5 mana, even though that card is still pretty usable if you ask me, but the Scourge Illusionist giving you 2 mana Motherships is definitely pretty nice as well. Everything is same about Mech Rogue still, it's still super fast, super scammy, and you can do some insane action with it, like you can literally have a turn 3 big board with Wind Fury and all that. If you open up with, let's say, Frequency Oscillator, into a turn 2 Coppertail Snoot, into a turn 3 attack with the Snoot the second time, coin into any Stormcoil, and that's absolutely disgusting. Like, we're talking about a turn 3 and standard right there. We also have Krakatoa here because it's such a good standalone card. Same can be said for the Titan, and Mimran also carries hard in this one. Matchup wise, Outcast Demon Hunter might be a bit too annoying for you, and Pure Paladin is actually your hardest matchup because Pure Pally has way too much wide boards as well as cheap taunts, and also the Class Action Lawyer is a nightmare for it. Control Priest is the other super hard matchup, honestly, and I am very surprised this is so high. It honestly feels like a 10% matchup at best. Like, the whole Priest package is designed to be very hard against you, so I don't know how these stats are like that. As for the mulligan, here's what it looks like going first. Your good 1-drops are super important, and also a great turn 3 is very important here with a Coppertail Snoot, which, like I said, could drop as soon as turn 2 if you have the discount already. Mimran's pretty nice. I would never keep Krakatoa, and so most other people. Same goes for any, honestly, unless you literally have frequency into Coppertail into any. In that case, maybe, but even then, the opponent has to literally just sit there and watch and take it like a champ. So be careful doing that as well. Prep, I would consider keeping if I already have something to prep to, like a From the Scrap heap. Spider is pretty decent as well as a keep if you already have a 1-drop. And Ventomatic could be a nice tempo, but it depends on the matchup. Like, if you're against a Druid, you might allow yourself to keep this one because they don't really have too much removal early on, but against most other classes it might be not that amazing to drop early. And when going second, it's not much different. Again, it's pretty much same thing. As for other good rogue decks, we have plenty of different mech rogues. Some are using the bullshit Prison of Yag cards. Some are also using the containment unit, but that one is a bit underperforming, honestly. As you can see, Lab Constructor is running at a close second, even though the sample size is pretty small. There's also a Miracle Concoction Mech Rogue out there too, which is looking kinda weird, and the stats are not that amazing for it. And Secret Rogue is also just above 52. On the number 4 spot, we also have Unholy Death Knight, which has been seeing a rise in power lately, after people dropped the Plague package basically. Right now, Unholy DK is looking literally how it used to, but we also have the new Primus in there, which is again just a huge standalone card, and it definitely does fit the deck well. We're not running too many spells in this one because we also have Magatha, so the only spells you have are just Grave Strengths. And yeah, literally everything else is just same old Unholy DK with Sylvanas and Lord Marigar at the end. As for the matchups, not that much stats just yet, but as you can see, from the popular ones you don't really have bad ones. Blood DK would be a horrible matchup, however. And as for the mulligan, here's what it looks like. Going first, Magatha is actually pretty high, but she does give you a lot of gas. I would keep her if I already have a good turn 1, let's say, maybe even a turn 2. Sylvanas also, same concept, wouldn't definitely be keeping both of them at the same time. Hawkstrider would be nice if you already have a good curve going. And if you already have a good 1-drop, Vickrul is also nice. And Pausik can make the cut again if you have a good curve. When going second, situation looks similar, and here even the Nerubian Swarm Guards might make enough sense. For other good Death Knights, we also have Blood Death Knight doing quite well right now. Not that much sample size though. Plague DK is almost at 55%. But as you can see, Frost DK is nowhere to be seen right now, so it's definitely not amazing right now. And on the last spot, we actually have Control Warrior, even though with a super small sample size, pretty decent stats, close to 60% win rate. And this is an Odin Warrior, which is also again running the bullshit Prison of Yogg. This deck got a lot of buffs, including Bladestorm dropping down to only 2 mana, Stoneskin also dropping to 2 mana, the weapon becoming a lot better to use, and also Trial by Fire is 1 mana short as well. It basically plays out like a super control-y deck, which has a good payoff with Odin at the end, so you can start really slapping face with every armor gain. You gotta be real careful how you use your removals because they're not infinite, even though that's what your deck mostly consists of, but you gotta really ration them out so they last long enough, and you gotta know the matchups well enough to know when to use Bladestorm or when to hold off with it, so you can really get a big board out. We're also running the Rift package, and that actually helps you get to your Odin a lot of the time, because Chorus Rift doesn't really have that many minions to draw from, since you already have a couple of Stoneskins, a Finley, Ignis, and basically your Odin, so you literally just have 5 minions in the deck, so getting to your Odin shouldn't be that hard. Matchup wise, we literally don't have any stats just yet, and same can be said for the mulligan honestly, but here's what the stats show for the aggregated situation, but you can't really get much info out of this. Like, you're definitely not keeping Trial by Fire, I can tell you that much. Stoneskin makes a lot of sense. Bridge Rift might be interesting if you're going second usually. Depending on the matchup, Bellowing Flame can help you. Bash is not bad as well, but yeah, basically it's very matchup dependent, so mulligan accordingly. For other good warrior decks, we have plenty of people trying out different control warriors, and yeah, like I said, this is literally above 60% right now, but it's definitely with a small sample size, but we have several very similar variations with close win rates, so it does actually have some merit to it. There's also a 40 control warrior out there that's looking interesting, even though the win rate is not as good, but Enrage War is actually nowhere to be seen just yet, so be careful playing that one. For the classes we didn't mention, starting off with Demon Hunter, we have Relic Demon Hunter still doing okay, and Outcast Demon Hunter is also pretty decent, even though it's just at 52, but I think that's a skill issue most of the time. Druid almost made it into the list, and honestly it does have better stats than some of the lists I showed you today, but I already showed you this deck a few times, and this is the very cheap drum variant that also has a bunch of early game, so you can check out that video, it's literally the same deck, and you also have the drum package at the end. There's also the slower drum variant with Topior and a bunch more nature spells, but less early game, which is doing quite well. And there's also Just Trend Druid without the drum package, which is not doing as amazing because they just have good early game and nothing else. With mages, Rainbow Mage is actually the best performer in Top Legend right now, so it's definitely worth checking out. Naga Mage is just above 50%, but that's a very skill testing deck, so I wouldn't blame the deck too much. Maybe it's just players still don't know exactly how to play it, and I don't blame them, it's definitely very hard. For Priests, Undead Priest is the best performer according to the stats for the last couple of days. Control Priest is still out there and annoying as ever. And people have asked me, is the old Undead Priest still good without the Titan? And the answer is not as much, like literally more than 4% difference with just a single card difference, so not that amazing. Well, this one has the amalgams, but that's not the... But I don't think those are the blame, it's just not having the Titan. And still Automaton Priest does not look too hot. With Shaman's Totem Shaman right now is the best performer, and Nature Shaman definitely got a huge hit apparently, because increasing Bioluminescence to 4 mana definitely is a huge hit to to the deck. Big Shaman is still a meme deck, honestly. It's above 50, but barely, so I wouldn't really be touching that. And that's about it for Shaman. And for Warlock, also Tadius seems to be still very insanely good. Because even though this does look like a nerf, it basically makes a lot of your cards at 0 mana because you don't really have that many above 4. Like, all of these cards become 0 mana depending on the polarity on the turn you play this. So even though you're not going to be dropping things like Surgeris for only 1 mana once you plop this guy out, it still has tons of potential and it's still actually a broken deck, it seems. Kris Warlock is also doing actually fine, and that's about it for Warlock as well. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be playing after the latest nerfs. If you're serious about Hearthstone, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget you can hire me for some Hearthstone coaching. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.